1.5, GIF kept a record of customers who rented cars and those who purchased cars in the last 6 months of 2019. Table 1 below shows the number of people who rented or purchased cars. Use Table 1 and the information above to answer the questions that follow. For this question, you find a table presented to you, and there are the figures in terms of those that rented cars and purchased cars. And this is given over a period from July 2019 to December 2019. And we are asked to work with this table. So 1.5.1, in which month or months was the purchasing of cars less than renting? Now looking at the table, we can see that all the months for purchasing of a car is higher than renting a car, except for October, which is equal. The figures are equal there, there's 5 and 5. The exception would be September, where you find the purchasing amount is 5 and the renting is 8. So our answer would be September. 1.5.2, calculate the total number of customers who rented cars in the last 6 months. So all we need to do is add up only the column where it's the rented cars. So it would be 6 plus 5 plus the 8 plus the 5 plus the next 5 for November and December 15. So adding up those amounts, we'd arrive at 44 customers. 1.5.3, name the best business month of GIF's company. The company will do well if a lot of people rented cars and a lot of people purchased cars. So the only month that reflects this is December. So our answer would be December. Question 2, we are presented with a box and information given to us in that box. Agricultural sciences students at Roseville College plant rose trees with the aim of selling bunches of roses. The formula they use to determine the cost price is equal to 12 Rand plus 50 Rand times number of bunches of roses. One bunch of rose is sold at 80 Rand each. So there are two sets of information that is valuable to us in this information given to us. And that is the cost price, which the formula we need to use. And then we have the selling price of the bunches of roses, which is 80 Rand. Keeping this in mind, we need to see where each question is directed, whether it's towards the cost price or whether it's towards the selling price, and use that information accordingly. So 2.1.1, we have calculate the cost price of 23 bunches of roses. Now we know that our focus in this question is on the cost price, so we'll use the cost price information given to us. Remember that the formula for the cost price was 12 Rand plus 50 Rand times the number of bunches of roses. Now we know in the question they've given us 23 bunches of roses. So all we need to do is substitute that 23 into that formula, 12 Rand plus 50 Rand times 23, and we'd arrive at our answer, which is 1,162 Rands. 2.1.2, agricultural science students paid a total cost price of 812 Rand for bunches of roses. Calculate the number of bunches of roses bought. So with this question as well, the focus is on the cost price. So in this case, they are giving us the total value of the cost price and they want us to work backwards. So we need to work out the number of bunches of roses. So working backwards, we need to take the 812, and looking at our formula, we see that we add 12 Rand first. So we will subtract this. If we subtract the 812 minus the 12, we're left with 800 Rand. Now of the 800 Rand, we'll see that we multiply 50 Rand times the number of bunches. So we need, in order for us to work backwards, we need to take the 800 Rand and divide by the 50 Rand, and it will give us the number of bunches. So once we do this, 800 divided by 50 Rand, and we get 16 bunches of roses. So it is important that when you read information given to you, it does not mean that you will use all the information given to you, because they've given you information about the selling price of 80 Rand. But for both questions, you were focused on the cost price formula. So be very cautious in terms of how you approach exam questions and the information that is useful for you when you read it. 2.2, we are presented with a box and information is given there as well. The price of the plant soil is made up of the fixed cost of 37 Rand plus 6 Rand per kilogram. So what this means is the fixed cost of 37 Rand plus 6 Rand per kilogram means that 37 Rand must be added to the 6 Rand times how many kilograms you have. It is important that you are able to identify this because it becomes useful when you are doing calculations that may be asked in the questions that follow. 2.2.1, write the formula to calculate the cost of the plant soil in the form cost is equal to. So all they are asking you is to take those words and make it into a equation or a formula in which you could work with. So they started off by saying cost is equal to, and you start off first with the 37 Rand. You need to deal with the 37 Rand. So cost will equal to 37 Rand plus 6 Rand times the number of kilograms that you need. 2.2.2, show by calculations whether 75 kg of plant soil will cost more than 500 Rand. This becomes a follow-up question where you have to use the formula you've just created and you have to arrive at an answer to indicate whether it is more or less than 500 Rand. So let's use that formula. Remember, we said cost is equal to 37 Rand plus 6 Rand times the number of kilograms. Now, if you look at the question in 2.2.2, it says 75 kilograms. So if we substitute this into that formula, so we'll have 37 Rand plus 6 Rand times 75 kgs, and we put this in our calculator and we'll arrive at an answer of 487 Rand. Now therefore it will cost less than 500 Rand. It is common in the maths exams for them to ask you to justify your answer. So make sure that you don't forget to add in your concluding statement where required, so that you could get an additional mark towards your final paper mark. 2.2.3, write the formula for calculating the income in the form income is equal to. So we know that income would mean money coming in, and the only way money would come in is by us selling those bunches of roses. After attempting so many questions, now we are using the information regarding the selling price. So we know the information in the box was given to us that each of the bunches of roses was 80 Rand. So our income would be the number of bunches of roses times 80 Rand. 2.3, we are presented with a box and information given to us. The students plan to plant fruit trees. Table 2 below shows the number of students needed to complete the planting of fruit trees. Looking at the table, we can see presented a number of students and number of days it takes for those students to plant those fruit trees. For instance, we get one student will take 36 days to plant those fruit trees. Two students would take 18 days, and it goes on till we come to 36 students will take 1 day to plant all those trees. 2.3.1, determine the constant product in table 2 above. The terms constant product means that two numbers have been multiplied to arrive at a certain answer, and constant means that answer is the same throughout all the different multiplications. Looking at the figures, we have number of students is 1 and the number of days is 36, so 1 times 36 will give me 36. If you look at the next set of figures, you have number of students is 2 and the number of days is 18. So 2 times 18 will be 36. 2.3.2, calculate the missing values A and B. So remember, this is a leading question because the question before this we worked the constant product and we know that to be 36. So in order for us to find either A or B, we need to divide whatever number we see, and we see by A there's the number 4. So if we take 36 divided by 4, it will give us the answer for A, and that will be 9. If you look at B is just below the number 3. So we take 36 divided by 3, and the value for B is 12. 2.3.3, use the values in table 2 above to draw a graph on the attached sheet. Now over the radio it would be difficult to present a graph or to explain a graph to you, but what we can focus on is the points on dealing with graphs. For instance, a graph should have a heading, a graph should be labeled, that means the x and y should be labeled. The graph should have points indicated. Make sure you plot your correct points. If needs be, you can join your points depending on the type of graph you are drawing. If you are drawing a bar graph, remember that some of the bar graphs require a key. Also, if you are drawing a single bar graph, remember that those bars do not touch. When you're drawing a histogram, the bars touch. For this particular question, it is a line graph, and those points that you indicate on the graph must be joined. 2.3.4, what type of relationship is represented by the graph in 2.3.3 above? Give a reason for your answer. This answer can be obtained by drawing the graph, or it can be obtained by looking at the table. As you can see, the number of students, the values increase, while the number of days, the values decrease. In such cases, we call this an inverse or indirect proportion. And our reason will be if one value increases, the other decreases. Or if you had to explain it, context to the question, as the number of students increases, the number of days decreases. 2.3.5, which variable is dependent? There are two variables that we have in this question, which is the number of days and the number of students. So how do we know that a variable is dependent? In order for that variable to change, something else or another variable needs to change first. So if you look in this instance, when the number of students change, it affects the number of days. So our answer would be the number of days, because this variable is dependent on the number of students that will do it. For instance, one student will take 36 days, but 36 students will take 1 day. 2.3.6, write the ratio of students to the number of days in simplest form if there are 2 students. So if we are to keep our answer in ratio form, it would be the students is to the 2 dots, the number of days. Now they are focusing on 2 students. So let's go to the table. When we go to the table, for 2 students, it will take 18 days. So our answer, first step will be 2 is to, which is the 2 dots, 18. But remember, your ratio must always be in smallest form. So 2 can go into both numbers. So our final answer would be 1 is to 9, because 2 can go into 18 9 times. So our final answer will be 1 is to 9.